Maria will start and then we will move on. और हम आपकी introduction हाँ we are recording this now. And I don't need to put mine on, right? दूसरा लेयर से लगा
अस्सलाम वालेकुम अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं सबको, मेरा नाम मारिया है और मेरा ताल्लुक इदारा तालीम उगाही से है। तो आज मैं सबको आपको यहाँ पे खुशामदीद वेलकम कर रही हूँ, क्योंकि आज हम बहुत ही एक इम्पॉर्टेंट डिस्कशन यहाँ पे करने जा रहे हैं, जो हमारे प्रेस्टिजियस जो हमारा पैनल है उसके साथ जो हम डिस्कशन करना चाह रहे हैं क्लाइमेट चेंज इन पाकिस्तान पे, और हमारी एक बहुत ही अच्छी जो क्लाइमेट चेंज पे सीरीज है माहौल सहेलियां, जो कि हमने रिसेंटली पब्लिश की है पाकिस्तान लर्निंग फेस्टिवल के प्लेटफॉर्म के थ्रू। वो क्लाइमेट चेंज पे जो हमने पब्लिश की हैं, और हम ये इंटरनेशनल लिटरेसी डे पे हम एक ये डिस्कशन आज हमने रखी है अपने सारे पैनल कर सके। और हम ये हमारे जो पर्पस है इसका वो ये है कि हम लोगों को इस तक अवेयरनेस दें कि व्हाई इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट, कि अब टाइम आ गया है कि हम क्लाइमेट चेंज पे जो है एक इसकी ऑनगोइंग डिस्कशन जो है वो होनी चाहिए। तो हमारा ये वर्ल्ड लिटरेसी डे की एक सेलिब्रेशन में हमने ये बीच में एक जो है पैनल डिस्कशन रखी है। मेरे साथ है फरा। फरा आपको इंट्रोडक्शन देंगी जो हमारे पैनल के यहाँ पे हमारे प्रेस्टिजियस जो गेस्ट हैं उनका।
अच्छा जी बोले। नहीं, अच्छा आप वो दिखा रहे हैं। अच्छा सबसे पहले हम शुरू करते हैं जो हमारी माहौल सहेलियां क्लाइमेट चेंज की हमारी जो ऑथर है मारिया रियाज। कैन वी हैव मारिया रियाज प्रोफाइल प्लीज। ये मेरा आ गया। जी सो मारिया रियाज जो है, मारिया रियाज सीईओ ऑफ वाई बुक पाकिस्तान की सीईओ है। उन्होंने बहुत सारी बुक्स लिखी हैं जिनमें अवर सुपर हीरो ईदी बाबा है। इसी तरह जो है वो चिल्ड्रन लिटरेचर फेस्टिवल पे उन्होंने बुक्स लिखी हैं। उन्होंने जो है एनसीए से अपना अंडर ग्रेजुएट इन टेक्सटाइल डिजाइन, पोस्ट ग्रेड इन मल्टीमीडिया आर्ट्स फ्रॉम एनसीए पाकिस्तान. She is a USAID alumni with courses of RISD USA. She has experience working in the industry as an art and design educator before starting her career in children literature. As an illustrator artist, her book include Change Making Intelligence, बच्चे कहाँ गए, Going Back to School, and Nothing Like Home. As an author and illustration artist, books include Green in Quarantine and Hamara Adbi Jashan. She was a juror and mentor of Young Author Award 2020 by Idarat Talim Agahi. She was also nominated for UBL Literary Award, Children's Literature Category 2020. Ms. Riaz works remotely as an art lead and Yes Network Pakistan and resides in Muzaffarabad, Azad, Jammu Kashmir.
Okay, next we have Miss Afia Salam with us. She is a master in geography and she has been working as a journalist for last 4 decades. She has been highlighting issues related to environment and climate change through her writings, teaching and training of journalists, students and teachers, and advocacy through seminars and moderations. She is also also work as an editor for our book as well, Mahol Sahelian.
Okay.
Next, we have Dr. Fawzia Parveen. She is a climate change and environment expert. She is an assistant professor at Aga Khan University, and she actually she has been working on climate change and environment from quite some time. She's a passionate about incorporating climate education in curriculum right from the level 12. She recently finished a module titled Climate Change and Environmental Sustainability. We have Arfa Nazli. She's a technical editor of the Mahol Sahelian. Arfa Nazli is a self-publishing consultant. She has worked in the area of human rights, where she handled literature, developing written visual materials, and team management. We have Ms. Lala Rukh Shams with us. She is a social entrepreneur and a science communicator. She is the founder and CEO of Science Views, a social enterprise that works to enhance scientific literacy by curating informal science education resources and engagement for children, teachers, schools, and community from diverse social economic background across Pakistan. She has been promoting STEM education she's also a fellow of Malala Fund Education Champion 2020, a Pakistan Acumen Fellow 2018, and Ashoka Changemaker Exchange Fellow 2019. We have Ms. Zeba Hashmi, founder of Ibtada, educator, activist, and researcher. She's a social observer who is covering various aspects of education barriers and advocates for making education more inclusive and accessible for all. We have Ms. Rumana Hussain, author and educator. She's a writer, artist, and educator, and she has authored over more than 60 books for children. She's an advisor on the PLF board since 2011.
Okay, next we have Dr. Mariam Chuptai. She is the director, National Curriculum Council of Pakistan. She has a doctorate and 2 master's degrees in education from Harvard University. Dr. Chuptai is also the Pakistan director of Harvard Middle South Asia Institute. As part of her family business, she served on the board of directors for Chuptai Lab, Pakistan's largest private healthcare network.
We have Farah Shah, district coordinator, PLP ITA. She works as a training associate at Idara Talim-o-Gahi in academic and training unit. She has a vast experience in development of teaching and learning materials. We have Ma'am Bela Raza Jamil with us. She CEO and founder of Pakistan Learning Festival. She has worked with provincial and federal government advisor in education sector, reforms, public-private partnerships, and innovation and financing. She also leads the citizen-led assessment and accountability initiative, the annual status of education report, Pakistan.
We thank you all panelists to join us and आप लोगों ने हमें time दिया on this great cause जिसमें हम climate change of Pakistan जो अभी जिस तरह से हमारा मुल्क एक तरह से इस चीज से affect हुआ है उस पे हम बात कर सकेंगे किस तरह through our organizations and our experience we can help our country to reduce this जो हमारी
such crisis,
yeah,
the
this
climate
crisis.
crisis that we are facing.
Okay, so I over to Ms. Bela Raza Jamil to start the session. So, okay.
Thank you very much, Ji. It's just a great pleasure. People were asking that what is the communication language? Is it Minglish, English or whatever? But I think हम mixed ही ज़बान रखते हैं. मगर I'm absolutely delighted that we can today speak, and this by design we thought we should talk about emerging literacies for climate change on this International Literacy Day 2022. I just thought that with can we have yes, please can you mute yourselves? So one of the biggest, I hope you can hear me well. If there's a problem to let us know. And can we have everyone muted, please? Thank you. I'm going to also request with such a distinguished panel, okay, if we have any questions, please keep asking those questions in the chat box. Our teams, Maria and will keep looking at the question. And if there are panelists soon after they have spoken, so that we do not get the trade डायलॉग एक गुफ्तगू करना चाह रहे हैं जो कि एक मीनिंगफुल गुफ्तगू हो। मैं चाह रही थी कि थोड़ा सा बैकड्रॉप जरूर दे दें ताकि एक एहसास हो जाए कि what is the scale of the crisis in the various emergencies that we sit. And by the way, this is Idara's fifth emergency since 2005. We see large scale destruction, and we've been talking about almost more than 40% of Pakistan affected by this. We are talking about millions of population that is affected naturally, but we are seeing more than 3.5 million children who will be displaced for a very long time. We're talking about 11 million children who in the month of September are going to be unable to get back to school. 22,000 schools have been damaged, more than almost 2 million homes damaged. We're talking about large scale displacement and destruction. And amidst all of this, the question is, to what extent is it because of climate change? To what extent it is because of other factors? To what extent people are saying it's the clops, the glaciers melting, others are saying it's not so. But the point remains that Pakistan is seen as number 5 in terms of countries at risk around the world. Now, this is not news to us. This has been around for a while. And some of us have been arguing for a long time. It is important that, much like our neighbors who have included environmental studies and climate change in their curriculum, why not in Pakistan? And I do want to, before I request Maria Riaz, the author and the illustrator, to come to have me on the spotlight for her wonderful work, I must share with you what the inspiration behind Mahol Sahelian is. और माहौल सहेलियां का हर जगह आपको चर्चा नजर आ रहा है, मगर माहौल सहेलियां की जो इंस्पिरेशन थी वो बुनियादी तौर पे हमारी ये जो एक काविश थी सेकंड चांस प्रोग्राम्स की for girls education who had dropped out called Sahelian Sahelian. And that was supported by FCDO and also in South Punjab with the school education department and the non-formal literacy department. Magar, the idea was, how do we focus on the challenge of girls' education, especially adolescent girls? How do we talk about life skills with them? And the success of almost 50,000 plus girls who have gone through these second chance programs with support of FCDO, the government, UNESCO and Malala Fund, मुख्तलिफ नाम थे, तो माहौल सहेलियां की इंस्पिरेशन थी ये जो सियानी सहेलियों की, कि when girls come together, when girls come together, they become a force in their own right. And how can this support group come together for climate change? तो इधर से एक सिलसिला शुरू हुआ माहौल सहेलियों का, और ये एक trilogy है, and the idea was, okay, let's do a series of 3 which covers the topography in different ways, the mountains, the coastal regions and the plains, ताकि हम उसको एक non-fiction fiction book बना सके, which has high quality content, and with high quality content also there is enough sufficient vocabularies and also activities that can be used in the classrooms. I'll just finish with this. While Maria Riaz spearheaded the work in terms of her passion for writing and also illustrating, we were very fortunate to have had a group of technical experts and editors who supported the effort. Where we had Afia Salam, and we've just had an introduction. She's a leading light and an activist. All of them are activists in this area. Dr. Fawzia Parveen from AKUID, again, someone who's pushing for content and also how to integrate climate change in the curriculum. Rumana Hussain, who's recently for Sharmeen Obey Chinoy Films, also edited a book on climate change heroes, and she'll talk more about it. But she's an author and editor of children's literature. And Arfa Nazli, who was also was brought in as to edit because it was written in Urdu to begin with. और हमने जानबूझ के उर्दू में लिखी because हमने सोचा let it get to the largest number of people. Mariam Chuktai will join us at 12:30, but as someone heading the National Curriculum Council, I'm delighted to share, and she'll share that herself. The first lot of team that we sent off the books to for technical review from curriculum perspective was the National Curriculum Council. And this received an extremely positive support and acknowledgement and a go-ahead that this should be going to scale. अब ये किताबें कैसे बढ़ेंगी, क्या होगा, this is something that we should talk about during this conversation. But I would like to immediately invite Maria Riaz, and want to also share that these books are available on ITA publications, also with Maria Riaz, and they can be ordered online and for school systems, etc. And there is going to be, for those ordering in bulk, a good discount as well, because we want to see this as a public good. The National Book Foundation of Pakistan has also agreed to print it at scale as a public good. So I'm delighted कि ये सब चीजें इस तरह से सोची गई. मगर I want to immediately go to Maria Riaz and give her the spotlight as the author illustrator, ताकि ये जो पूरा सोच थी इनकी on the making of this trilogy, a gender trilogy as I call, about the ideas, the content, and how she sees this for the target group and its best use, but also the making of the book. It's the series, Mahol Sahelian itself. So over to you, Maria Riaz. And Maria is speaking to us from Muzaffarabad. And बहुत बहुत खुशामदीद आपको मारिया रियाज आज कि आप इस पैनल पे हैं और हम एक नई किस्म की लिटरेसीज की बात कर रहे हैं, which are literacies for climate change and environment in Pakistan. Over to you, Maria Riaz.
Thank you so much, Bela Appa, for this full of compliments introduction. It was very overwhelming. Thank you so much. और सबसे पहले तो thank you for giving me this opportunity to write about climate change. तो थोड़ा सा जो मैं आज बात करना चाह रही हूँ, जो शायद पहले नहीं की, वो इस बारे में कि जब ये प्रोजेक्ट जो अप्रोच किया गया था, तो वो उसके बाद से थॉट प्रोसेस क्या था. ठीक है. सो आई एम अ पर्सन हु हैज नो साइंस बैकग्राउंड, आर्ट एंड डिजाइन, प्योर आर्ट एंड डिजाइन का बंदा हूँ मैं. तो मुझे काफी पढ़ना पड़ा था इस बारे में. सो इनिशियली व्हेन आई रिसीव्ड दिस प्रोजेक्ट, तो one thing which was two things which were mandatory were climate change and the gender and age of the three protagonists. So when I started thinking and reading about the climate change and the resources which I got from, realized that we cannot discuss climate change in isolation. So there are so many factors which are interlinked in a way that we cannot, without highlighting those factors, without discussing, we cannot just talk about climate change and gender dimensions. So these factors were, there were four factors. One is social setup and our family values. Number two is our culture and our taboos. Number three is the use of media and technology, internet. Number four is the forte of each and every individual. See? So let's discuss these. So number one was social setup and family values. जब हमारी ये स्टोरी शुरू होती है, सीरीज शुरू होती है, the first book of the series, Sabz Bagh, it is based on a very close family tragedy that their grandmother is very ill and she is under depression. अब जो ये पूरा एक scenario है ना, this is very real life, scenario. I experienced this, but right now I'm in Muzaffarabad, and in the building where I'm sitting right now used to be a garden. It was our garden. It was a very lush green garden with mango trees and with beautiful foliage. And next to this area was a house where we used to live. But with time and with in the need of money, this area was, the garden was removed, and we constructed this building, and then we rented that building. So it is all concrete. No matter how many green, lush mountains we have in the background, the house is concrete. This was the basis of this book, that how it affects the individuals who are residing in such buildings. So the garden is a place when we walk on grass barefoot. It's like therapy, and it really releases all your negative energy and the anxiety and the stress. So the grandmother, the children, the three cousins who are the main protagonists, the female protagonists, saw their ailing grandmother, they came to this conclusion that it is because of that building. And they started to develop a little garden in their house. So the research on air purifying plants and how to clean the smog from that area. So this was situated in Lahore in the story, but in Pakistan we have this sort of society where the communities are very closely connected, the mohallas, the bastis, the biradaris, where everyone is connected with their neighbors. So whenever a person is ill, or there's a tragedy in one family, it has a domino effect. And whenever someone is doing an act like a change in routine, like trying to purify the air, trying to grow a garden, or trying to dispose the trash in a more responsible manner, it also has a domino. So this sort of setup has these positives, like people tend to adapt such routine and lifestyle changes of their neighbors. But the second point, which is our culture and our taboos, it has some negative points as well. So the negative points are the most common lines that we have heard, like log kya kahenge. तो ये हमारी सोसाइटी में ये चीज भी बहुत कॉमन है. So for example, if you are keeping a track of your carbon footprint, and you want to control, you want to reduce the carbon emissions at an individual or at a family level, and you are trying to incorporate cycling in your routine, and you want, one day you are deciding that I will go to my office on a bicycle, there will be people commenting that what happened, kya ho gaya, sare paise khatam ho gaye, gaadi kahan gayi, driver kahan gaya. And especially when you are a female, even for a female like me who is in her late 30s, अगर मैं कल को साइकिल पे चली जाऊं तो इधर उधर के लोग थोड़ा सा वो होंगे कि ये क्या हुआ एकदम से. सो हमारी जो यंगर जनरेशन है, आई वांट देम टू सरपास दीज कमेंट्स. इन चीजों को बिल्कुल ब्लॉक आउट करना चाहिए कि लोग क्या कहेंगे. और अगर आप कुछ प्योर इंटेंशन के साथ कर रहे हैं, आपका मकसद है क्लाइमेट चेंज के हवाले से बेहतरी लाना, अपनी कार्बन फुटप्रिंट को जो है वो कम करना, तो फिर इन चीज़ों को जो है ना, लोगों के बारे में सोचना है, तो थिंक अबाउट द वेलफेयर ऑफ पीपल, नॉट द ओपिनियंस ऑफ द पीपल. सी, सो number 3 point is the use of media and technology. इंटरनेट का यूजेज, ये एक हमारे पास ग्रुप है जिसको हम कह सकते हैं चिल्ड्रन, टीन्स, प्री टीन्स, यंग एडल्ट्स, 5 to 10 ग्रेड के बच्चे. ये बच्चे बहुत ज्यादा यूज कर रहे होते हैं टेक्नोलॉजी को. मोस्टली दे आर प्लेइंग गेम्स और वाचिंग वीडियोस ऑफ अनबॉक्सिंग ऑफ टॉयज or you know, Roblox, Minecraft. So everything anyone can relate to for this age. But the point of these books is to trigger the curiosity of the reader, so that the reader may research, may take a few words from the book and then research, okay, what is that? कार्बन फुटप्रिंट का इंट्रोडक्शन करा दिया, बट अब क्या है कार्बन फुटप्रिंट, थोड़ा और डिटेल में पढ़ा जाए. इवन द पर्सनालिटीज लाइक Helga Ahmed, we have a little glimpse of Helga Ahmed and her achievements, her services, but one might look up to her and search what were her achievements in detail, and for other personalities as well. So the use of internet should be positive, especially for this age group. Now let's move on to the next part, which is the last factor, which is forte of each individual. So in these books, the main characters, Zaheen, Justaju, and Rasti are three girls who are cousins. They share a lot. There's so much which is in common, but they are very different in terms of personalities, in terms of their goals in life. But one thing which is common is their their pure intentions towards climate change, towards the environment. So Zaheen, as the name implies, is intelligent. और वो क्यों इंटेलिजेंट है, वो इसलिए नहीं है कि वो रट्टे मारती है और वो मेमोराइज करती है हर कुछ बड़ा अच्छा. शी इज इंटेलिजेंट बिकॉज her favorite words are why and why not, how, when, क्यों, कैसे हुआ ये सब. So सवालात की भरमार है. So she is very curious about everything and she questions everything. And when we question, we try to find answers as well. So she is the one who is always pointing out the problem. She's always pointing out why is this happening and we must change it. So this is why she is Zaheen and intelligent. Number 2 is Justaju, who is an artist and she is emotionally intelligent. उसको लोगों के एहसासात का, फीलिंग्स का, इवन पत्ते फूलों पौधों के एहसासात को वो कंसिडर करती है. और अब इसमें क्या है कि व्हेन यू आर एन आर्टिस्ट और क्लाइमेट चेंज की बात हो रही है तो कुछ हमें लगता है कि ओके इन दोनों चीजों का रिलेशन नहीं है, बट आपका कोई भी डायरेक्शन है, यू कैन वर्क फॉर क्लाइमेट चेंज. What she did was she used her art to convert bicycles into the next cool thing. और उसने बड़े मजे के उनके ऊपर पेंटिंग करके उनको कह लें कि उसकी एक वैल्यू बढ़ा दी. उसके बाद she followed the footsteps of Fawzia Minallah and she became a recycling artist, और उसने ट्रैश को आर्ट में कन्वर्ट किया. Next is Rasti. So Rasti is the name of my daughter as well. I love this name, and it means the one on the right path. So Rasti is the one who uses internet, and वो हमेशा रास्ता ढूंढती है कि अच्छा. So Justaju and Zaheen has these questions. Now I have to find a way, the method, the process. She will go through books and media and internet and will ask people to find a way to do things. She's the one who will, who is ready to take an action. So the trilogy of these three girls is amazing. और जो इसमें मैसेज है वो ये है इन बुक्स में कि anyone can be Mahol Sahelian, anyone can join the Climate Justice League. जो भी आपका प्रोफेशन है, जरूरी नहीं है कि आप साइंटिस्ट हैं, आप आर्टिस्ट हैं, आप रिसर्चर हैं, आप थिंकर हैं. If you want to contribute to this, not the city but the globe, you can do it. Thank you so much. थोड़ा लंबा कर गई.
Thank you, Maria. No, it really puts it well. I just wanted like a 30-second piece on the structure of the books. ये सारी किताबों के there is a structure that you follow, and that structure is very important in the way we are generating literacies for climate change. So just quickly, if you can share the structure, and then we go on to Afia Salam immediately.
So the structure is, the story, number one story is about Lahore. It is about the air pollution. And the second one is about land pollution, landfill. It is situated in Muzaffarabad, Neelam side. And then the third one is about water pollution, and it is situated in Karachi, Gwadar. And the structure is the story and the activities. The activities are the immediate action activities. There is another page in each book where what the girls gained from this whole scenario. So personal level पर जो उनकी learning हुई वो भी बताई गई है. And then there is a लुगत, glossary at the end जिसके अंदर जो
Glossary.
important, हाँ जी.
And then
So,
there is a pledge or there's an action page. So thank you so much, Maria. And we immediately move on to Afia Salam. Afia Salam has been a hero recently because of the Indus expedition that she's been on. And she's caught the eye of our Minister for Climate Change as well. And she's on many panels now. So हमें बहुत खुशी है that we are welcoming Afia Salam to speak about Mahol Sahelian, but also more generally, करना क्या चाहिए Afia? ये किताबें बन रही हैं. They need to be going everywhere in scale. And given our grim situation of the emergencies, we have the UN Secretary General also in the country in solidarity for this emergency. So बताइए, where are we going next? And thank you for being one of the technical editors of the trilogy, Mahol Sahelian. Over to you, Afia. We have about 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay. So thank you very much, Bella, for having me as part of this fantastic panel. And I'm so happy that I'm seeing Maria Riaz's wonderful work. I was sent to, not really edit, I mean, to just go over it. And, I found the whole approach so refreshing and so contemporary and so relatable, because these days children, you have to excite the children on what they are doing and what they are learning. And this kind of a book is very engaging, not just because of the content, but also the kind of the presentation, because that is also important. We must remember that the children are, for other subjects and the other kind of things that they are exposed to, they're exposed to a lot of visual stimuli, and that the only thing that engages their interest is something that is eye-pleasing, something very easy on the eye. The text also has to be flowing. So on that score, I think she gets all the marks, because I found it very refreshing. Of course, the first the text came to me only as a Word document, but when it was printed and I saw that it was so, this is something that would engage. Now, as far as the importance is concerned, I don't think I have to even state, if you take a look around at the situation we are in, that this is something that actually should have happened a long time ago. And that the fact that it is happening now just shows its importance, that why it needs to be mainstreamed into the education, into formal education. We do have, Romana does a lot of work, and so much of her work is based on environmental issues and the way she presents it to the children. And she also does that, in a visually very, very appealing manner. But the whole problem is that these things do not get into the hands of the mainstream students' bodies. And this is where we need to, have those inroads within the education departments of all the provinces. Because all of Pakistan needs to learn that climate change is a reality. We have actually sort of, passed the period where, okay, right now we seem to be impacted, But our children have their whole lives before them, and they need to know what kind of a life they will have, what kind of threats they have to deal with, what kind of adaptive measures they have to take, and what kind of individual actions as as responsible citizens. And children also need to know that they have to be responsible citizens. Somehow we seem to think that those conversations have to be directed towards the adults. I don't think so. I think we are very late in communicating the importance of being a good citizen. And children are very receptive to these ideas, and that feel good factor is there, and everybody likes to feel good. And if children receive that kind of validation on doing these small acts, which actually have a bigger imprint if we use the means of technology and communications. And this is also what I like, because children these days are digital natives. You saw how at the beginning, or even before the beginning of this very webinar, dinosaurs like me were struggling to get it right, and I wasn't able to get it right still. And that's why you see my background as different as from the others. But the point is, these girls know, they are digital savvy. They know how to get the word out. They know how to source information. They know how to find their own role models. Like I love the fact that Maria took Helga as a role model, because we grew up seeing her work and admiring her and taking her on and taking inspiration from her. So those are the kind of people that our children also need to know about and follow. So, and also, there are practical things they're talking about. They're not aspirational things. This is also very important, because we sometimes get a little bit too philosophical, and that is not age appropriate. At this age, the children who are seen as doing something and they're seen as making a difference, it is very important for other children to know that we can also do it. It is not somebody who has a lot of resources. It is not somebody who comes from a different class, who has a lot of money or who has a lot of support, so that only they can do it. But if these books can just get some children to feel that I can also do this, I think the objective is met. So that is something very important. And of course, not just because I'm a woman, but I think because it needs to be said, we need to get girls to be those champions. The girls who need to break the barriers, because sometimes those barriers are because the girls can't do it. And here the girls have to be seen that they can do it. And when half the country's population gets into that mindset that we can do it, then the other half, which tells them that you can't, will really have to take a back seat. It's a long drawn out process. It's, over generations, but I think this is the age of leapfrogging. We can't really wait for as much time to pass to come to that stage where we can see things improving. And I think that books like the one Maria has written, and the way she has structured them, and the way, because it's a trilogy. So it takes you through the paces of how you come from a very small setup, a family setup, and then you move on to your friends and family, and then you expand it more and you take on your, the other people around you in your society. So this is exactly the way we can inspire people. Yes. So if
Thank
you
you
can just
so much, Afia.
Thank you. I'm done here. I just wanted to say thank you for making me a part of it.
No, Afia, we want to ask you one very quick question, since you are such a rock star. You're a rock star everywhere for climate change, activism, journalism. How can we propagate this? And please think about it. Write it in the chat box. Let us know, because these books have to go far and wide. Or again, I want to say that this is in sequence, starting with Sabz Bagh, then Pahad Sa Kaam, and then Naiya Par. So it covers the entire areas, very well covered. So we need for you to be the spokesperson and to help with your activism, the propagation of these books everywhere. We want to now move quickly to Rumana Hussain. And Rumana, aapke liye the question is, and I'm really delighted that somebody said, "Ye kya hai, all women's panel hai." मैंने कहा भाई क्यों नहीं? Why not all women's panel? It just happened coincidentally, but no harm. And Romana Hussain, one of the questions that we wanted to ask you, yeah, how can fiction and
जी
non-fiction books like this can be boosted at this time? ये इस वक्त इतना propagation की भी जरूरत है, but impact और spread है. आपने भी इस पे हाल ही में काम किया है, but especially because you had a very important role, as you always have, in editing and also giving technical inputs to Mahol Sahelian. You let us know the importance of this and how, again, do we get this to be propagated the way, with the intent that these were produced. So over to you, Romana. I'm so delighted कि आप आज आ सकी, वो जिनके भी roles थे
बहुत शुक्रिया
बनाने में.
बहुत
Thank you,
जी
Romana.
बहुत शुक्रिया
जी.
बेला मुझे बस एक तो दोबारा से मुबारकबाद देनी है आप सबको, खुसूसी तौर पर मारिया को और ITA को भी, क्योंकि ये वाकई बहुत ही अहम ये किताबें हैं और दिल खुश करने वाली और बहुत ही टाइमली हैं. और मैंने जब एनवायरनमेंट पे काम शुरू किया था उस बात को 36 साल हो गए, और उस वक्त ये लफ्ज़ भी हमें सोचना पड़ा था कि हम इसको क्या कहें, और एक मतलब एक बस एक स्ट्रक्चर करके और रिसर्च करके और ख़ुद नोट्स बना के और काम शुरू किया था, और प्राइमरी के बच्चों को पढ़ाना, क्योंकि कुछ नहीं था. और जब से लेकर और अब तक मेरा ख्याल है कि सबसे बड़ा और जो अपहिल टास्क है पहाड़ सा, क्या नाम है मारिया किताब का, एक पहाड़ सा काम है ना. तो ये वही पहाड़ है जिसको चढ़ना हम सबके लिए बहुत मुश्किल हो रहा है. यानी आप जो भी किताबें बनाएं, जो भी जितनी भी अच्छी हों, लेकिन जब तक वो मेन स्ट्रीम में नहीं आती, जैसे आफिया ने भी कहा, तो बहुत गिने चुने बच्चों तक या लोगों तक या टीचर्स तक जब ये चीज़ें पहुंचती हैं तो उसका वो इम्पैक्ट नहीं हो पाता. तो बात ये है कि अब इन 3 किताबों को पुश करने के लिए हम सब की मिली-जुली काविश का होना होगा. ये भी अच्छी बात है कि गवर्नमेंट और नॉन गवर्नमेंटल और जिन लोगों को भी आज मदऊ भी किया है, और वैसे भी मेरा ख्याल है कि ITA क्योंकि काम करता है सारे मुल्क में, तो और ये जो कुछ हुआ है पाकिस्तान में, मेरा ख्याल है कि कुछ नहीं तो every 7th person is displaced in Pakistan, something so I mean it's phenomenal जो कुछ भी हुआ है. तो अब तो कोई उसका सबूत नहीं चाहिए ना कि क्लाइमेट चेंज क्या बला है, वाकई ये है नहीं है, या ये सिर्फ कहीं और की कोई चीज़. तो हम तो मतलब देख रहे हैं कि जस्ट 1.1 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड के फ़र्क से पाकिस्तान को कितना बड़ा नुकसान हो सकता है और हो रहा है और हुआ है. तो मैं यही कहूँगी, आपने जिस किताब का जिक्र किया था, ये जो SOC फिल्म्स के लिए मैंने की है, इसको मैंने लिखा है. 14 लोगों के मैंने इसमें इंटरव्यूज़ किए, सबसे जो पूरे मुल्क में फैले हुए हैं. मैं दिखाना चाह रही हूँ ख़ास तौर पे इन खातून को, क्योंकि अभी ख़वातीन की और लड़कियों की बात हो रही थी. सबिया ज़मान जो खैबर पख्तूनख्वा से उनका ताल्लुक़ है, और वो पहली खातून थी जिन्होंने WWF एज बहैसियत यानी फील्ड ऑफिसर के उन्होंने ज्वाइन किया. और वो उनका जो काम है वो यही है कि सब जानदारों के साथ मिलकर कैसे हम रह सकते हैं, वो पैगाम है. तो इस किताब में हर तरह के लोग हैं और सब जगह फैले हुए हैं. अगर डॉक्टर खुर्रम भट्टी हैं जो लाहौर में हैं, साइंटिस्ट हैं, और वो जाने बचाने के लिए टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल अगर करते हैं, ही इज़ PhD. तो सलीम डबलो हैं जो मछेरे हैं और केटी बंदर में हैं, और वो कैसे मछलियों और तिमर के जो दरख्त हैं, मैंग्रोव हिस्ट्रीज, तो उसका आपस में ताल्लुक किस तरह से, तो मुझे तो इतना कुछ जानने को मिला है मारिया की किताबें पढ़कर भी, और इस किताब को जब मैं लिख रही थी, और ये दोनों जुबानों में है, इंग्लिश में और उर्दू में, तो सबसे जब मेरी बातें हुई इन 14 लोगों से जो पूरे पाकिस्तान में फैले हुए हैं, तो बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला है. तो देयर इज अ लॉट दैट वी कैन वी कैन ट्रांसफर, ऑल ऑफ अस, टीचर्स के लिए, बच्चों के लिए. और मेरा ख्याल है कि ये जो 3 किताबें हैं ये बहुत बखूबी ये कर सकती हैं. बस मुझे यही कहना है. बहुत शुक्रिया.
Thank you so much, Romana. That was very useful. And सब लोगों के लिए in the chat we are putting in also the links from where you can buy the books. Online available भी हैं, and there will be more places where these books will be placed, ताकि आप जैसे Liberty Books से इन सब से भी खरीद लें. We will move to Dr. Fawzia Parveen from AKUID, but I also had, मैं कल मुल्तान में और मुजफ्फरगढ़ में थी, तो हमारे जबरदस्त एक्टिविस्ट जो हैं, सेक्रेटरी साउथ पंजाब, सेक्रेटरी एजुकेशन, स्कूल एजुकेशन, डॉक्टर एहतशाम अनवर, उन्होंने एक बहुत जबरदस्त किताब लिखी है बच्चों की सब्ज किताब के नाम से, घर भर के लिए. तो द टारगेट ऑडियंस इज चिल्ड्रन, टीचर्स, स्टूडेंट्स, पेरेंट्स, वो फैमिलीज, और बड़ी अच्छी किताब है. तो मुझे लग रहा है कि पाकिस्तान को एक वाकई में, और आफिया से सबसे कह रही हूँ कि एक प्लेटफॉर्म हो जहाँ पे हम लोग ये सब किताबें इकट्ठी डाल सकें, तो पीपल नो वेयर टू गेट देम. और माशाल्लाह से ये भी पीजीडी टीवी से अप्रूव्ड है. और डॉक्टर फौजिया, आपसे दिस इज द क्वेश्चन दैट, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर बीइंग वन ऑफ द एक्सपर्ट्स in the production of this trilogy that Idara Talim Aghi was keen to produce with Maria Riaz. But the question is that in terms of its content appropriateness, some comments, and the activities that can be promoted in schools, as well as, since you are involved in an institution for teacher preparedness and workforce preparedness, how can we propagate this set of 3 books for those purposes? So the question on content, and then also the way to push it practically in the area of workforce preparation, as well as of activities inside your lab schools, because Aga Khan is associated with a whole network of schools, and you've got amazing students who are in turn are great multipliers. Over to you, about 5 minutes, and then we will move on to our next speakers.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for the invitation, and thanks to Farah. I actually only commented on one of the books, so I wouldn't take the credit for all 3, but जो smog से related था, उस पे मैंने काफी गौर से उसको देखा था और उस पे comment किया था. Personally, of course, I loved it. It's also very heartening to see that there are more than one actors who are producing content in this. And as was mentioned in my introduction, I just finished a set of 2 booklets. One is an information booklet, and another is a ready-made activities for parents, teachers, students to learn climate change and sustainability related issues. And that, inshallah, will be launched end of this month, and it will be a free resource, and it will be uploaded online on ID's resources. So I guess the most positive thing, Bella Ji and everybody in the panel, is that we actually are, we're not just here to be Mahol, Sahelian, or friends of the environment. We actually, all of us are operating in whatever little we could do in the sphere of education. You know, if someone's taken it from the fiction point of view, another has taken it from the illustration point of view, some have tried to highlight heroes. Funnily enough, all the books have highlighted heroes, and it's incredible just to see that even our book tried to highlight the relatively older people who've dedicated their lives for not being acknowledged as much as, let's say, the younger generation that has access to the internet and is more vocal and is more present in the social spaces. Jahan tak using these resources in creating awareness and in actually taking it to the ground, because I think getting done with the content, creating the content, and I'm sure that there's a lot that still needs to be discussed in terms of the wide curricula and what are we missing and where should this be taken and who should be teaching it, because I think one of the important things for me as a teacher also is that whoever is teaching it also has to understand what they're teaching. So of course, like simpler text that communicates this in the form of fiction is very important. I saw in the content that there were a lot of basic definitions embedded into the story. So let's say one student is asking, but what does smog actually mean? Then, one is asking what the GHG, like the greenhouse gases are. And so the definitions are embedded into the stories, which is great. But in terms of propagation, I think we have to, as educators, be careful. What IED is doing, I think IED has taken the first step by, for example, hiring people like me to properly educate the teachers on environmental education. Even if they're maths teachers, even if they're science teachers, even if they're teaching social studies, they can take my courses as an elective and actually understand some of the basic things. So of course, IED cannot go to each school, but through these faculty, through these future teachers, these teachers who go and practice, we are trying to approach as many students as possible. And I think that is the aim of all of us. What can happen is, like you said, making sure that all of this content is in one place. This story is present in the IED library. So when I'm teaching my course and I'm using my content and my activities and my booklet, I also make sure that this is one of the reading materials. So let's say in one of the lectures regarding use of fiction, use of films, videos, documentaries, or literature, we make sure that these resources are a part of that pedagogy curricula, however you want to share it. So I think creating synergies, making sure that the content is shared. So I share my content with you, you look at it, and aap koshish karein ki you build on it instead of everyone doing the same thing. I think the one thing with things becoming fashionable is that everyone does the same thing, and the impact is always very, very thin. It could do us a great favor if we actually become like friends of climate, friends of environment, and share content, share knowledge, create a common pool, make sure that we're utilizing each other's content, and wherever possible, improve it, build on it, bring it to that level. But I think one thing that I would really like to mention here, Belaji, is how we are communicating this to the future generation. So I'm sure that, like Maria said, how she's tried to make sure that it's a hopeful story, it's a fun story, it's also like a story of adventure. I do think oftentimes, by telling these younger generations what is the planet going through, and of course for them to witness a lot of it, a lot of climate anxiousness and anxiety is building up. A lot of kids do not have hope. Even people who are around me tell me, like, what's the point in doing this? This is going to happen anyway, we're going to suffer anyway, everything's coming to an end anyway. And I think we also have to fight that mindset as well. And we have to make sure that the future generations that we build, we give them hope. It's not just you become the future responsible citizen. It's also, we're all in this together. Us, people older than us, and you. Let's just come together and make sure that we do not go past this tipping point. Thank you again. And back to
Thank you very much, Dr. Fawzia. Very good tips. And I think wherever, including IED, AKU IED, wherever you're building these resources, please do count Mahol Sahelian in there too as well. And as I said, I love the intergenerational spectrum, the dada, dadi, nana, nani, the parents, and then the girls. And also the fact that they're all getting Facebook savvy, they're spreading the entire messages through social media, especially in Sabzbar. So I think those are very good. There's a whole aspect of social enterprise as well. So I think ye bade maze ki cheezein. Kal I was sitting in Muzaffargarh. We had an International Literacy Day activities with children making the stories, looking at a story about let me learn, even though there are floods. So वो लड़कियां अपने ऊपर चीजें बना रही थी, but I saw the level of agency, which is phenomenal. And I immediately jumped and said, make a pledge, वादा करो, अहद करो. And the activist in me said, and sort of they were all teachers and students making aheads, ye multipliers kaise banenge. But I love to now introduce and ask Ziba to come in, Ziba Hashmi, who's the founder of Ibtida. but also she has just gone through her entire curriculum review of the curriculum and the textbooks. कि उसमें क्या है? Is climate change covered at all? या is it typical कि हम लोग थोड़ा थोड़ा हर काम करते हैं और वो पूरा हम नहीं कर पाते? So before I ask Lala Rukh, I'm going to ask Ziba to talk about what did she think about her review of these books, and how does she think, given her recent review of the curriculum and textbooks, हम इसको कैसे integrate करें? And remember, हम ये कहते हैं कि curriculum सिर्फ वो नहीं है जो classroom में हो रहा है, मतलब ये सब चीजें तो हम लोग हर तरफ से ले रहे हैं। और ये जो हमारे असर ने भी दिखाया कि जो कोविड का जमाना था, देखिए एक फ्लड्स आए, कोविड भूल रहे हैं, कोविड गया नहीं है कहीं, मगर कोविड का भी जमाना था, उसमें families and homes played a very big role in the learning processes, as they do, but they are not acknowledged. But I wanted to hear from Ziba, what did she think, and how can we propagate this? What can be done to make this part of the mainstream process?
Thank you so much, Veda.
Just speak.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for having me over here and to be a part of this, wonderful session. And I would just say, when I went through these books, and I was totally enthralled, and I was totally surprised. It was a good surprise for me to see so many things covered in these 3 short books, I would say. तो इसमें जो सबसे पहली जो इम्पोर्टेंट जो चीज जो मुझे ये लगी कि when I was trying to review these books, I wanted to look into them through the social context. How do they impact our social lives? How do they impact human lives? And how relevant are they to our children? So the first thing that I saw is a very strong storytelling. जो narrative है इसमें, और सबसे पहले जो मैं बात करूंगी कि इसमें जो characterization की जो बात हुई है कि ज़हीन, रास्ती और जस्तजू की, जिस तरह से आपने एक जो सबसे पहली वाली जो किताब है सबस्पार्क में, इसमें जो आपने दिखाया है, I think ये बहुत एक simplistic एक सेटिंग इन्होंने दिखाया, एक घर का दिखाया, किस तरह से वो घर से फिर बाद में इनको एक दूसरे का एहसास हुआ, और फिर आगे जाकर इन्होंने उस चीज को हल तलाश करने की कोशिश की कि अर्बनाइजेशन की वजह से, बिल्डिंग्स बनने की वजह से आपको किस तरह से माहौल मिला, और अपने माहौल में जो दुश्वारियां हैं आपने किस तरह से उसको दूर किया। तो उस लिहाज से अगर देखा जाए तो सबस्पार्क इज रियली एन एक्सीलेंट रीड, और बहुत सिंपलिस्टिकली इसमें सॉल्यूशंस बताए गए हैं। The second book that I went through was the Naya part, जिसमें भी again they went through the coastal lines और ग्वादर का इसमें दिखाया, and they went through the ecology of water कि किस तरह से affect होती है through pollution and all that stuff. Or another thing that I found very positive here is, they have mentioned our local scientists and environmental, activists who have been part of this, preserving environment and all. So these are very powerful books, and I won't go into much detail, but the values that I have noticed, and I could notice, some very positive values coming out of it, and the most striking was the community resolutions, I would say, because the community activism that these 3 girls were able to go and, motivate their community members to go towards savings and, to plant more trees and to, go towards reusable energy and many other things that, that could help them preserve their environments. And also the climate change mitigation strategies are also well elaborated here. And it's a good read if we look from the children's perspective. In terms of information, I think that, we have some good data here. For example, in this book, Bahar Sakam,
this book does talk about, how global warming has resulted in creation of about 433 lakes, and how they have impacted the lives of about 7 lakh people in the northern areas. So I think that is very important and useful information. Should have. Some of the challenges I would say, oh yes, and also the illustration that I would like to talk about. It's for the first time, that I'm seeing that in these storybooks, you can see really well elaborated illustrations, and illustration is the first thing that we need to look
Yes.
into, and that's the first thing, that attracts, that is attractive to our children. Some of the challenges that I find in our social context, and I feel that there's a need for these books to address them more, is that the climate change is putting more girls at risk, and I'm really happy to see that this aspect was mentioned in Bahar Se Kaam. And here they have mentioned how the economic burdens are causing families to pressure their girls into early marriages, and so on and so forth, because the climate change results in the human displacements, and it means more economic misery. And how do people tackle with that, and how can we sensitize and empathize with those people? And how can we provide them help? I think that this is a very important lesson that we have to talk about.
Siva, one more minute.
Gee, okay. In my suggestion for improvement and how to propagate these books, I would suggest, and my recommendation would be to create some coordination, because with the recent floods and with the devastation that we are facing, so we need to, coordinate with the natural disaster management authorities. And also we need to coordinate with the climate change ministries, because there's a need for them to also identify the learning needs for our children. My second suggestion is that it should not only be advocated at schools, it should also be advocated informally to our other adult communities who are not literate, but they need to know what's really happening with our climate, what's really happening with our environment, and what best strategies they can come up with as a community that can help them preserve their
Thank you.
environment. Thank you so much.
बहुत shukriya, Ziba. Is that all? Thank you so much, Ziba. This was all very practical, and we want this. And I also want to welcome Dr. Mariam Jufai, who's joined us. But before she comes on, I wanted to again remind us कि ये जो हम काम कर रहे हैं, इसमें, of course, they were talking about foundational literacies and language, but also remember the goals and the targets of SDG 4. 4.7 says that 4.7 is all about learners to acquire knowledge and skills for promoting sustainable development, including, among others, through education for sustainable development and lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, and promotion of a culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and culture's contribution to sustainable development. Now, interestingly, this particular target, जिसके अंदर climate change भी आ रहा है, सवाल ये पैदा होता है कि इसको tier 2 indicator बन गया है, यानी कि इसकी definitions आ गई हैं कि how to measure it, but not enough countries are reporting. And I also wanted to share कि इसी के अंदर हमारे पास 8 themes हैं, just so that we are aware and see how this trilogy takes on those 8 themes. Which of those 8 themes? The first one is cultural diversity and tolerance. Second is gender equality. Third is human rights, peace and non-violence, climate change, environmental sustainability, human survival and well-being, and sustainable consumption and production. And it's so nice that it says कि ये 12 subjects में इसको हम integrate कर सकते हैं. So I'm not talking that, yes, it should be only in schools, it can be anywhere, Ziba, as you mentioned, but it says arts, civics, citizenship education, ethics, moral studies, geography, health, physical education and sports, history, languages, mathematics, religious education, science, social studies, and integrated ethics. And I did want to share this because we are not just talking, in a vacuum. Ye already measured outcomes hai for what the country has committed to under the SDGs 2030, but only also under SDG 4 and 4.7 target, ye bahut achhi tarah se elaborated hai. And I did want in the end, as we go towards our last three speakers, bring on Dr. Mariam Chugtai, who has very kindly, through her panel, reviewed the 3 books at the National Curriculum Council. And I think there is always a desire for content and that can reach everywhere in Pakistan, or jo asani se, asan zaban mein available ho. So, Dr. Mariam Chugtai ke saath my question is, how do you see the contribution of this trilogy, these 3 books that have come on Mahol Sahelian, for both supporting content for textbooks, content for teacher preparation and use in schools, and how can the National Curriculum Council play a role in popularizing these books? हमने इसको इदारा तालीम आगई में और मारिया रियाज की तरफ से भी, we see it as a public good. We see it as a good that has to go to everyone, especially in light of this current crisis we are in. It's almost apocalyptic, this crisis. कि जहां पे आपकी almost 50% population जो है वो affect हो रही है और बहुत वक्त लगेगा इससे recover करने में. अब देखें, जब हम कहते रहे बहुत सालों से, उस वक्त action नहीं लिया, but now we must take action. So, Dr. Mariam Chugtai, we wanted to thank you for the reviews, but also we are looking forward to your comments. जो मैंने आपसे सवाल किए हैं, इसको हम कैसे आगे लेकर जा सकते हैं as a public good for everyone in Pakistan. Over to you, Dr. Mariam Chugtai, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Bella, as you know, I am a mentee of yours and always very grateful for any opportunity that you bring me towards, and a huge fan of your work also. So this initiative of yours, Mahol Sahelian, is no exception. जो particularly इस project के बारे में जो एक बात जो मेरे लिए stand out करती है as director of the National Curriculum Council, is कि आपने एक ऐसा issue है जो इस वक्त हर बच्चे के लिए उसके context में इस वक्त relevant है, और उसको आपने एक story form में बच्चे के सामने रखा है, जिसका ये the main you look at it from a learning perspective कि बच्चा वो सीखता है जो उसके कॉन्टेक्स्ट से रेलेवेंट हो, जो जिससे वो रिलेट कर सके, जिसके बारे में वो बात कर सके, सिर्फ अपने टीचर से नहीं, अपने घर पे, अपनी बहन से, अपने माँ बाप से, जब उसको कोई ख्याल आए कि वो कनेक्शन बनाए. तो दिस स्टोरी बेस्ड ये जो हमारी and very beautifully illustrated also, this kind of a initiative becomes imperative because आप बच्चे को एक abstract sense में सिर्फ टेक्स्ट बुक के थ्रू या सिर्फ न्यूज़ मीडिया के थ्रू इस तरह से नहीं एक important issue highlight कर रहे, बल्कि उसके you are going to where the child is, and that is one reason why National Curriculum Council felt कि हमें इस project को definitely further support करना चाहिए. What I also appreciate about it, और जो हमारा ये जो National Curriculum of Pakistan का पूरा bottom line fundamental principle है, that we have to move towards concept based education. We cannot be textbook based, we cannot be rote memorization based, and in order to be concept based, it is very important कि हम इस mindset से निकलें कि एक SLO को मीट करने के लिए, स्टूडेंट लर्निंग आउटकम को मीट करने के लिए एक ही किताब हो सकती है. सिमिलरली जैसे एक किताब जो है that can be one resource, but multiple textbooks के थ्रू या even no textbook के थ्रू बच्चे के अंदर ये ability होनी चाहिए कि वो खुद से अपनी environment से digitally वो learning lessons निकाले और उस question का इम्तिहान पे conceptual understanding के साथ जवाब दे सके. So when contributions like Mahol Sahelian come about, it really enriches the learning ecosystem for the child, because उसके पास उसकी textbook के अलावा ये और resources भी हैं that the child is drawn towards. And अगर ये available ना हो तो फिर बच्चा उसके पेरेंट्स उसके टीचर will be bound कि बस अब textbook में ही सारी knowledge है. So हमारा जो ethos है for curriculum reforms, it is to move children towards concept-based understanding and to move them towards multiple textbooks or no textbooks, and to move them towards contextualized education, जो हर बच्चे की अपनी environment के हिसाब से हो. At a personal level, I really appreciated the gendered title of this document. ये माहौल दोस्त भी हो सकते थे, लेकिन माहौल सहेलियां particularly spotlights on the agency of the girl child in as a citizen and a global citizen. So I thank you very much for this contribution, and the government would be very keen to explore further aspects of this initiative and other initiatives from other people जो climate change, environment के point of view से इस sort of drive में शामिल होना चाहें. We would be very keen to support those as well.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया Dr. Mariam Chuttai for all those supportive comments. We are always there to make this available. I love Rasti. Rasti is the little daughter of Maria Riaz, who's there. And of course, she's one of the main characters also in the book. Hello, Rasti. But I was also showing and sharing with you the Sabs Kitab that has been written by Dr. Ihtisham Anwar, this Secretary School Education for South Punjab as well. तो मुझे अच्छा लग रहा है कि books आ रही हैं, but anything that you feel we can do and support, we'll be there. Maria is only in Muzaffarabad. She's happy to come and support you. But as we were just talking amongst ourselves, the idea of this consciousness is not just for grades 5 upwards and so on, but in fact, people are saying even in early years, our climate change के right behavior or attitudes कैसे लेकर आ सकते, parenting और बच्चों में भी और सब में. और हमारी बहुत ही एक activist है लाला रुख, who's the leading light of Science Fuse in Pakistan, popularizing STEM education. But we would like to bring her on board at this point, right after your wonderful positive comments, to see how can the STEM education movement, especially again focused a lot on girls, because Lala Rukh has been pushing STEM education for girls, because हमेशा लड़कियां कहीं पीछे रह जाती हैं. So how can we popularize climate change actions within STEM education, and how can Science Fuse play a role in propagating this trilogy called Mahol Sahelian by Idara Talim Waghai and Mario Riaz? Over to you, Lala Rukh.
सबसे पहले बहुत शुक्रिया बेला जी. Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here. I'm a big fan again of the work जो आप लोग कर रहे हैं, इदारा तालीम व आगाही कर रहे हैं, स्पेशली मारिया रियाज साहिबा. उनके साथ तो हमारा अपना भी एक बहुत लंबा एसोसिएशन रहा है इन रिसेंट ईयर्स. आई थिंक जो अभी डॉक्टर मरियम साहिबा ने जो बात कही वो इतनी इम्पोर्टेंट है कि बच्चों के लिए टेक्स्ट बुक्स के अलावा देयर हैव टू बी रिसोर्सेज. और हम बात करते हैं साइंस फ्यूज में बहुत ज़्यादा of how we can create opportunities for children to engage with science informally. यानी स्कूल की चार दीवारी के बाहर, टेक्स्ट बुक से बाहर, एक उस्ताद या उस्तानी के अलावा आप साइंस के साथ आपका रिश्ता कैसा है और वो रिश्ता कैसे परवान चढ़ता है कई सालों में जैसे जैसे बच्चे बड़े होते हैं, ये एक बहुत ही क्रिटिकल चीज़ है. और ये अब और ज़्यादा क्रिटिकल हो गई है कि पाकिस्तान के दरवाजे पे वो प्रॉब्लम्स आ गए हैं. प्रॉब्लम्स तो बहुत अरसे से ही थे, लेकिन अब वो पूरी तरह से मैनिफेस्ट हो रहे हैं और हम उनका रिजल्ट, उनके जो रेपरकशंस हैं वो देख रहे हैं. तो चाहे वो क्लाइमेट चेंज है, चाहे ये फ्लड्स हैं जिन्होंने हमारे मुल्क को भी घेरा हुआ है और आगे जाके और भी प्रॉब्लम्स बढ़ते जाएंगे, कम नहीं होंगे. इन प्रॉब्लम्स के जो सोल्यूशंस हैं वो हमारे बच्चों ने और यंग लोगों ने ही लेकर आने हैं. एंड फॉर दैट दे नीड अ सॉलिड फाउंडेशन ऑफ साइंस. अगर आपकी साइंटिफिक लिटरेसी वीक है, अगर आपके बच्चों और लड़कियों का खास तौर पे साइंस के साथ रिश्ता मजबूत नहीं है, if they can't imagine themselves as scientists, if they think कि we are not capable enough to do science, तो फिर कैसे वो problems के solutions निकालेंगे? तो उसमें ये बहुत ज़रूरी है कि इस तरह की किताबें मौजूद हों। तो this is a big success, you know, and जैसे कि डॉक्टर फौजिया ने भी कहा था कि दिस इज़ अ रिसोर्स फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस, कि हम अपनी क्लासेस में हम जो अपने प्रोग्राम्स करवाते हैं वहाँ भी बच्चों को इंट्रोड्यूस करवाएं। ये हैबिट्स जो हैं ये बचपन से पेरेंट्स ने घरों में, स्कूल्स में होनी चाहिए, ताकि बच्चे पढ़ें और फिर उन्हें आगाही मिले और फिर दे कैन यू नो कम अप विद दीज विद द सॉल्यूशंस। तो बहुत ज़्यादा खुशी है कि आप यहाँ पे बेला जी भी हैं, मारिया भी हैं, क्योंकि हमारी अपनी भी जो किताबें हैं नेक्स्ट इन लाइन है इन कोलैबोरेशन विद इदारा तालीम व आगाही। जो 3 किताबें आने वाली हैं जो कि साइंस थीम्ड हैं, हम भी इसीलिए ये किताबें पाकिस्तान में प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि ये किताबें बड़ी रेयर हैं। उर्दू और इंग्लिश की किताबें हम देखते हैं फिर भी मौजूद होती हैं जिसमें कहानियाँ होती हैं, लेकिन साइंस कहानियों के ज़रिए बच्चों तक नहीं पहुंचाई जाती। साइंस हमेशा पेचीदा, थोड़ी सी डरावनी रखी जाती है कि अरे ये तो बहुत डरावनी सी चीज़ है। बेला जी कुछ कहना चाह रही हैं, कुछ दिखाना भी चाह रही हैं।
मैं बस असल में लाला रुख ये जो सारी पॉपुलराइजेशन है ऑफ क्लाइमेट चेंज लिटरेसीज, ऑफ साइंस लिटरेसीज, ये सब मेरी जुली चीजें, दे ऑल sort of, you know, ये जो हमारी मल्टीडिसिप्लिनैरिटी है सब्जेक्ट्स की वो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है। कहानियां चल रही है एंड नथिंग लाइक स्टोरीज, ये जो स्टोरी टेलिंग का जज्बा है, और you know whether it is about women in science, which is the book that's just coming up, or remarkable women in STEM, इसी तरह की किताबें डॉक्टर मरियम चुगताई हम और मजीद लेकर भी आ रहे हैं इकट्ठे मिलके, बिकॉज पाकिस्तान में अब वक्त है इकट्ठे मिलके काम करने का, हमेशा से था, अब और भी ज्यादा है। देयर इज नो क्वेश्चन कि हम लोग एक अलग अलग डेढ़ी की मस्जिद बना के और वहां पे तालीम का चर्चा करेंगे या अपने आप को इक्विप करने का चर्चा करेंगे, so that we can become better citizens, make Pakistan so much more productive, and really come so it comes out in its complete shining light, with all the barakat that Pakistan has been bestowed with, ये जो लोगों की resilience है, तो हमें खुशी है कि हम इस चीज को आगे प्रमोट कर रहे हैं। और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है कि सारे काम में हम लोग जिस तरह से लोगों को इकट्ठे जोड़ते हैं। डॉक्टर मरियम चुगताई आपसे पहले हमारे साथ आफिया सलाम, रुमाना हुसैन, डॉक्टर फौजिया परवीन एक IID से, और फिर उसके बाद हमारे साथ फराज शाह, और अब आरफा नाजमी, जिन्होंने इन ट्रिलॉजी को मारिया रियाज के साथ मिलके, एंड जस्ट द ओपननेस ऑफ द ऑथर इलस्ट्रेटर के सब लोग मिलके इस पे काम करते हैं, ताकि जो एंड प्रोडक्ट है, कंटेंट है, वो बहुत सहल हो, यूजर फ्रेंडली हो। आरफा नाजमी ने भी इस हवाले से काम किया, और मैं चाहूंगी कि आरफा से भी हम बात सुने, क्योंकि आरफा का ताल्लुक not only on issues of gender equality पे रहा है और एक्टिविज्म में, मगर also on content issues and communication and propagation. Arfa Nazmi, over to you for the next 3 minutes.
बहुत शुक्रिया बेला, और कि मैं इस पैनल का हिस्सा बनी और थे जो एक्सपर्ट लोग हैं उनसे मेरी मुलाकात हो सकी। इस कहानियों को जिस वक्त मैं रिव्यू कर रही थी तो मैंने इनको बड़ा शानदार और ज़बरदस्त पाया, और बहुत ऐसे मौज़ूआत को बहुत आसानी से जो है वो बयान किया गया, और साथ साथ इसके थोड़े से हल भी बताने की कोशिश की गई। मैं जो एक पॉइंट मुझे जो बहुत अच्छा लगा वो ये था कि जो इंसानी रिश्ते हैं उस पर बड़ा फोकस किया गया, जैसे दोस्ती का रिश्ता, वालिदैन का इन्वॉल्व होना बच्चों के साथ, और फिर बड़ों का एहतराम, और फिर वहां से जो मैं इसको पिक करके दूसरा पॉइंट लेकर आती हूँ मौसमियाती हवाले से, उसमें बागबानी यानी कि घर से आपने शुरू किया, पौधों की अफादियत के बारे में बताया, बाहर निकले तो कूड़ा करकट की बात की, फिजाई आलूदगी की, ताबकारी की बात की, फिर अगली कहानी के अंदर आपने समंदर को पूजे में बंद करने की कोशिश की। तो वो तो बहुत ज़ाहिर है सबने कहानियां पढ़ी हैं, लेकिन जो तीसरी कहानी जो है पहाड़ से जो काम है ये आज के हालात के मुताबिक जो है बहुत मुताबिकत रखती है। सैलाब का की सूरत हाल है पूरे पाकिस्तान के अंदर। जब सैलाब आता है तो ना सिर्फ वो ज़राए माश बल्कि रिहाइश तो बहा के तो लेके जाते ही है, लेकिन और बहुत सारे मसाइल भी पैदा कर देता है, जिसमें वायलेंस, सेहत के मसाइल जो हैं बहुत ज़्यादा जो है वो नज़र आते हैं। हमारे जो औरतों के ज़्यादातर वो हम सलाखत मसाइल देखने में आए वो आते हैं ज़चगी के, लड़कियों के पीरियड्स के और सेहत के मुतवाज़न गैर मुतवाज़न बताना छोड़े, खुराक की जो है वो फराहमी के मसाइल जो होते हैं। इस कहानी के अंदर एक इशू पर ज़रा से हल्के से बात की गई है, वो है जबरी शादी के हवाले से। तो मैं ये समझती हूँ कि ये जबरी शादी का जो सिलसिला होता है कि बहुत सिर्फ वालिदैन नहीं, रिश्तेदार क्या सारे ही बच्चियों को उस वक़्त जो है वो बोझ नहीं समझ रहे होते, क्योंकि हालात ऐसे होते हैं, क्योंकि वो जो बच्चियाँ जो हैं हैरेसमेंट का वहाँ सामना होता है, पर्दाफरोश जो है वो एक्टिव हो चुके होते हैं, अगवाकारी हो रही होती है। तो उससे जो है वालिदैन जो है वो परेशान हो जाते हैं और वो परेशान भी हो जाते हैं। दूसरा शायद उनके पास जो माशी हालात जो होते हैं वो उनको बोझ उठाना उनके लिए मुमकिन नहीं होता। वो छोटी सी उम्र में बच्चियों की शादी करते हैं। ये एक अलमिया है। बेला यहाँ कह रही थी कि इस पैनल पे जो है सारी खवातीन ही हैं, तो मैं ये समझती हूँ कि जो मौसमियाती तब्दीलियां हैं उनका सबसे ज्यादा असर जो है वो औरतों पर होता है, और जो फैसला साजी है उसमें जो औरतें हैं वो अकलियती होती हैं। तो ये एक वो है। दूसरा मैं बात करना चाहूंगी कि ये कहानियों को जो मैं देखती हूँ ये मुझे खुद एक इंफॉर्मेशन किट लगती है अगर मैं इसको देखूँ इस और दूसरा ये कि इसमें से हम बहुत ज्यादा आईईसी मटेरियल और तरबियत मटेरियल जो है वो भी हम इसमें से बना सकते हैं। इसमें बहुत सारे मैसेजेस हम निकाल सकते हैं जो कि सिर्फ हम लोग एनवायरनमेंट पे जो लोग काम कर रहे हैं उनसे शेयर करने के साथ साथ वायलेंस पे जो लोग काम कर रहे हैं उनसे भी शेयर कर सकते हैं, और जो खवातीन सेहत के इश्यूज के ऊपर काम कर रहे हैं उनके साथ भी शेयर कर सकते हैं। और इन तमाम मैसेजेस को हम जो है वो इंटरनेशनल फोरम्स के ऊपर जो है वो ले जा सकते हैं। मैं ये समझती हूँ कि इन कहानियों की समरी जो है वो छोटी छोटी समरी बना के जो है वो हमें इंटरनेशनली जो है वो अपने वेबसाइट्स पर भी और वैसे भी खुद भी भेजनी चाहिए, लिंक भेजनी चाहिए। तो ये चीजें हैं और मैं ये समझती हूँ कि इसका एक हिस्सा बनना जो है ना ये मेरे लिए भी बड़ी जो है ना प्राउड की बात है। और मैं यहाँ पर मरीम रियाज को, बेला को, इन सबको मुबारकबाद दूंगी कि इन्होंने बहुत शानदार और बहुत जबरदस्त काम किया।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आरफा, इतनी अच्छी अच्छी आपने बातें करी। और कोई यही कह रहा था कि जो इसमें जो समाजी पहलू है ना, जिस तरह से पेवस किए गए हुए हैं, whether it is on child marriages, violence against women, issues of the whole gendered lens through which societies often see people, but also the entire young generation coming through and having this empathy across generations, ये भी amazing चीजें हैं। और आपने जो कम्युनिकेशन और रीपैकेजिंग की बात की वो भी जबरदस्त है। हम आखिर में we have 1 minute each. We want Maria Riaz, the author and illustrator, to be able to say a very quick 45-second comment on this conversation. और मुझे खुशी हुई कि इंटरनेशनल लिटरेसी डे को हमने इस तरह से पैनल को दर्ज किया, इमर्जिंग लिटरेसीज फॉर क्लाइमेट चेंज इन पाकिस्तान। मुझे लगता है कि इससे बेहतर कोई टाइटल नहीं हो सकता था और इन किताबों की रूनुमाई इस तरह से होती। तो मारिया, आपका क्या व्यू है? देयर इज लॉट्स ऑफ वर्क फॉर अस अहेड, और इधर भी बहुत कमिटमेंट्स हुई है। इससे पहले कि मरियम चुगताई साहिबा की तरफ आए और रुमाना की तरफ भी फॉर अ मिनट, एंड देन वी विल हैव फराशा टू क्लोज इट। ओवर टू यू मारिया रियाज।
थैंक यू बेलापा। और मैं हमेशा ये बात कर रही थी कि माहौल सहेलियां बनेंगे हम, और मुझे लग रहा है आज हम बन गए हैं। आज इतनी सारी माहौल से एक साथ एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे 14-15 मेंबर्स, सो आई एम द रिस्पॉन्स और जितनी सबने फीडबैक दी है बहुत मैं मशकूर हूँ कि इस तरह से आप लोगों ने पसंद किया है बुक को। और अब आगे जब देखना है कि आगे क्या करना है, तो आई थिंक वी हैव अ लॉन्ग लिस्ट व्हाट टू डू नेक्स्ट टू सेलिब्रेट दीज बुक्स मोर। तो आई होप कि जितनी ये स्प्रेड हो सके करें। मैं जल्दी बंद करूँ कि मेरे साथ इस वक्त बच्चे आ गए हैं स्कूल से और वो शोर मचा रहे हैं। तो आई होप कि हम सब as Mahol Sahelian. Thank you so much.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। और मैं यही अभी हम लोग कह रहे थे कि अब तो ये जो सैलाब आया है इसमें एक चौथी किताब बन गई है कि ये बन पड़ता है कि अब क्या है, and how do we look at Mahol Sahelian through the lens of the flood and emergencies. And I think इसमें बहुत कुछ content है. Dr. Mariam Chuttai, over to you for your last words of wisdom for this conversation so we can take action for the future. और हम आपके सामने ये जो किताबों की आपने छोटे छोटे वो corrections कहे थे, हम आपके सामने वो फिर से पेश करेंगे आपकी कमेटी के सामने, and see how we can go from there and a force that we must become for the country. Mariam Chuttai Sahiba ke comments, please.
Abhi, I'm traveling across the country, meeting with teachers and principals. अब मैं आपको बताती हूँ, अभी रिसेंटली मैं गवादर और तुर्बत में टीचर्स और प्रिंसिपल्स से मिल रही थी, तो वहाँ पर एक ऑल गर्ल्स स्कूल की प्रिंसिपल ने एक बात शेयर की। उसने कहा कि मेरे पास बहुत सारी बच्चियाँ हैं जो साइंस में इंटरेस्टेड हैं, जो साइंटिस्ट बनना चाहती हैं, लेकिन 9वीं 10वीं की साइंस की किताब उर्दू में है और 11वीं 12वीं की साइंस की किताब अब्रप्टली इंग्लिश में शिफ्ट करती है, जिसकी वजह से बहुत सारी बच्चियां जो हैं वो साइंस की बजाय दे आर फोर्स्ड टू टेक आर्ट्स. एंड आई थॉट फॉर अ मोमेंट कि हाउ मेनी बलोच फीमेल साइंटिस्ट्स हैव वी मिस्ड आउट ऑन because of this kind of a barrier. I think that it is a very similar situation here also. There are barriers of access to such important topics, to women scientists, to children who want to engage with environmental sciences. And वहीं पर I visited Mirani Dam, जिसमें बहुत पानी था, and I was told कि अगर ये डैम ना बना होता तो ये सारा पानी इस वक्त तुर्बत और गवादर में होता. This is a very relevant contextualized story कि अगर उन बच्चियों को who want to be part of an environmental sciences or sciences कि उनके context से related, you can teach them about the impact, about how the human mind can work with the environment, preserve the environment and preserve human life. And I feel that these kinds of initiatives that you have spearheaded on education for the environment and the climate, I think these ought to be supported as a first priority for the government. And in this aap hame, you will find us always standing with you as a partner.
डॉक्टर मरियम चौथाई, बल्कि मुझे एकदम से याद आया कि हमारी बहुत बड़ी पार्टनर है वहां पे अनीला यूसुफ, who's one of the principals in Pishukan, and we have some ideas, क्योंकि इससे पहले भी जब मारिया ने चीजें इंटीग्रेट करी तो उन्होंने मुबारक विलेज की भी कहानी इंटीग्रेट करी नैया पार में कि how these girls took saplings and उन्होंने एक चमन उगा दिया रेत के अंदर. So we will be sure to take that story and try and get the story from Gwadar also in the next piece that we will come up with. I think इस floods में और ये बनना पड़ता है कि need क्या है. And thank you so much for being there and standing in solidarity for a movement that needs to take place in Pakistan, जिसमें ढेरों लोग शामिल हों. डॉक्टर आफिया सलाम ने भी अपने बहुत सारे कमेंट्स दिए, डॉक्टर फौजिया परवीन ने भी. We will take this forward, but thank you so much for being here in this panel, for giving us very practical suggestions and for standing by us. And inshallah ताला ये किताबें दूर तक जाएं और हम आपको बिल्कुल freedom देते हैं कि इसको एक public good और public service की तरह इस्तेमाल करें. But your solidarity and support means a lot. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका. We have finally Rumana Hussain and the last word from Farah. Rumana, are you there for your 40-second spot? Your last. Yes. Ji for Rumana.
नहीं, आवाज नहीं आ रही.
I think there's a problem. We can't hear you.
You are on mute, I guess.
You're on mute. Rumana? Connect with mic. Are you on mute?
No.
I again want to tell everyone that the links for the publications are there. जिसने भी order करनी हो, Rumana, you are on mute. It shows mute.
She's not.
Acha. I wonder what is, maybe Farah, you can go first, and if Romana's comes on unmute, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Bella, for this opportunity. और मारिया रियाज के साथ बाकी सारे हमारे साथ जो इन बुक्स में जिन्होंने हमारी हेल्प की है उनके साथ काम करके मुझे भी बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला है, जो जिस तरह मैं भी साइंस की स्टूडेंट नहीं हूँ तो मुझे भी क्लाइमेट के बारे में बहुत सारी चीजें सीखने को मिली है। तो विद द पास्ट एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ कोविड अगर मैं शेयर करूँ तो कोविड भी एक ऐसा टाइम था जिसमें बहुत ज्यादा हमारा मतलब कंट्री जो है वो लिमिटेड हो गया था, एजुकेशन नहीं मिल रही थी, यानी कि स्कूल्स नहीं खुले थे। तो सेम सिचुएशन अभी कुछ पाकिस्तान के एरियाज में है जहाँ पे बहुत सारे लोग जो है वो इससे अफेक्टेड है। तो आई वुड से कि जिस तरह सारे पैनलिस्ट ने कहा कि दिस शुड बी पार्ट ऑफ द करिकुलम, बट ऑल्सो अगर हमारे टेक्स्ट बुक में भी क्लाइमेट चेंज का वो एक बड़ा हिस्सा, जिस तरह आप सुबह बात करी थी ज्योग्राफी है, हिस्ट्री है, तो ज्योग्राफी में भी अगर बहुत सारा हिस्सा क्लाइमेट चेंज के ऊपर आ जाए,
नाम ही होना चाहिए क्लाइमेट,
बिल्कुल
ज्योग्राफी हटा दें,
बिल्कुल,
we should have a subject called climate change
Yeah.
because it's there to stay for decades.
and also like it's the time जहाँ पे अभी के बच्चे वो देख रहे हैं कि क्या इफेक्ट क्लाइमेट चेंज का उनकी कंट्री पे, उनके गांव में हो रहा है। तो दे शुड बी एबल टू स्टेप आउट एंड जो है उसके लिए काम कर सकते हैं एंड सारे माहौल सहेलियां बन सकते हैं। तो आई एम वेरी ऑनर्ड टू बी पार्ट ऑफ दिस सीरीज एंड दिस ऑल द क्लाइमेट चेंज, जो हमारा एक मिशन है माहौल सहेलियों का, और हम बहुत सारे माहौल दोस्त भी बनाएंगे। ये सिर्फ हम लिमिट ना रखें कि हम फीमेल्स का ही करें। तो ओवर टू मारिया।
Thank you so much, everyone. I like to conclude this very productive discussion that we had today. सबसे पहले I like to thank you Miss Afia Salam कि आपने अपने busy schedule से हमें time दिया। Ma'am Bella Raza, thank you so much for the Dr. Mariam Chugtai, thank you so much for joining us today. Ma'am Bella, आप हमारे लिए वैसे ही बहुत inspirational हैं, तो थैंक यू सो मच कि आपने ये सारा जो एक इनिशिएटिव लिया इस पैनल डिस्कशन को करने में। डॉक्टर फौजिया परवीन, थैंक यू सो मच, आपने हमें ज्वाइन किया। मिस आरफा नाजनी हमारे साथ यहाँ पे मौजूद हैं, और मिस जीबा हाशमी यहाँ पे, थैंक यू। मिस लाला रुख हमारे साथ हैं, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अस, और we are very excited for more publications that we are working with Science Fuse. फिर लाला, okay. Then we have Miss Maria Riaz, thank you so much. आपने अपने busy schedule से time निकाला। Miss
Maria Riaz को see queen of the show today.
Miss Rumana Hussain. Then we have.
And please keep sending us comments as you want or questions. We'll be very happy to respond. अब सब आ जाएं, अपने आप को तस्वीरें दिखा दें ताकि हम एक अच्छी सी तस्वीर खींच लें. If those who want to please put this all up, we can have a nice photograph of everyone that we want to record, so that we will have keep it there. और इंशाल्लाह ताला हम आपको राब्ते में रखेंगे।
लास्ट में आई लाइक टू ऐड कि आप लोग ये जो माहौल सहेलियों का जो 3 बुक्स की सीरीज है, ये आप ऑनलाइन ऑर्डर कर सकते हैं पाकिस्तान लर्निंग फेस्टिवल के थ्रू, और प्लीज आप लोग ऑर्डर करें और देखें कि ये दीज आर द वेरी इंफॉर्मेटिव बुक्स, और दीज आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बुक्स एज वेल। सो
और ये हमारी मूवमेंट जारी है, वी हैव नॉट, वी आर गोइंग टू बी वर्किंग हार्ड एट इट, एंड आप सब उस सोशल मूवमेंट का हिस्सा हैं। लेट्स सी हाउ वी कैन टेक दिस फॉरवर्ड with all the energy and all the commitment. और अल्लाह मियाँ हम सबका हाफिज़ और नासिर है, ख़ुसूसी तौर पे जो हमारे भाई बहन बच्चे सब लोग जो इस वक्त एक आफत में बिल्कुल फंसे हुए हैं और एक अजीब मुसीबत से गुजर रहे हैं दिन रात की, और अल्लाह मियाँ हमें तौफीक दे कि हम लोग एक दूसरे की मदद कर सकें, and we can come out of it feeling stronger, more resilient, and more compelled to take on the whole areas of climate change in our lives, in our daily lives, not just in the curriculum, but in our daily lives and our values, and also जो हमारे रवैये हैं वो बहुत important है, रवैयों के साथ अमल भी। आप लोग का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।
Thank you.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, खुदा हाफिज. Thank you. I have to run to another meeting, but